Well, I hope you all enjoyed your breakout rooms. We're going to just be finishing off the day with a Q&A session. So if you've got any questions that are pending, then do just drop them in the chat, and I'll pick them up as we go along. But I thought we could start with some sort of questions that I thought we'd missed during the day. I know that most of the ones in the chat were answered during the course of the day anyway. So but if there's anything else that comes to mind, please feel free to just drop it in the chat, or you can message it to me privately or over the chat, and we can ask that question to one of our panelists. I know you've met some of the people on some of the students here. I'm just going to be allocating your questions to the person I see that would answer it well. So one of the questions that I thought we could address a little bit more is about the admissions tests. Most subjects, pretty much all subjects, will have a admissions test as part of their application process, and I thought we may be able to offer some advice on those tests and just how to go about preparing them. Anybody want, like, Simi, if you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's fine. So for psychology, I know I did have an admissions test, but I think at least at Cambridge they might be taking that out from next year, and it's also highly like college specific. So you have the admissions test, but some colleges also want you to submit an essay, so that they can have a look at your work. Newnham, where I am, didn't, but others do. So in terms of preparing, I'd just say make sure you look at the past papers and get a feel for what kind of like the questions are, and try and do the papers in the time limit, because they are difficult to complete. And if you do find yourself like struggling whilst you're doing them, then that's actually completely normal, because you're not expected to get every question right. It's really just a case of doing as many of the questions possible within that time limit. But the only way they're difficult to prepare for, like based like from what we had for psychology. But so just speaking from experience, for psychology, you have so the first section is you get to choose between either the biology part, or you do a reading comprehension exercise. So I did biology and maths, and then the second part is writing an essay. Again, those essays are really broad, like in the sense that it really like just depends on what kind of reading you've done. So just read around your subject and do the past papers in the time limit. I think that'd be the best thing.
Yep, I pretty much agree there. I do history, so my subject is a written subject, and if any of you are applying for a written subject, my advice would just be, I guess it would be just be practice papers, doing it under time conditions, but also just making sure, like when you're picking a college, see what the specific admissions requirements are, because some will have, either different tests, or some will have written work requirements. So just check that out before you apply. Another question was, what are the sort of criteria to pass an interview? I know that's a bit of a weird question if you're a student here, because there is no such thing as right or wrong really in a lot of subjects. But yeah, Simran, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, so one thing I would just say is, when you're posed with a question, obviously they won't have right or wrong answer. It's really about just following the logical chain of what your reasoning is. So regardless of what answer you give, it just has to make sense with what you're saying. And the second thing I would say is, if they are questioning your judgment, don't feel like you have to stick to your guns. Like, show some ability to absorb what they're saying and reflect on your own views in real time and adjust. So those are the two things that I would say are important, because the whole point of the interview is to see how teachable you are, rather than being really knowledgeable, because they're not expecting any knowledge at this stage. So yeah.
Okay, should we get an engineer's perspective on that, perhaps? Javraj, if you want to say something?
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same. They're not looking to see whether they're not like asking a question to see if you can reach the answer, trying to see how you can think, and how teachable you are, and how well you understand the fundamental concepts. So like for my second interview, the first question I had absolutely no idea how to answer it, and the interviewer just basically gave me a couple of hints, and they're trying to see how well you can pick up on the hints to see and use them to basically solve or at least get close to a solution. Because I mean, at the end of the day, these people interviewing you are the same people going to be supervising you or tutoring you when you come to Oxford and Cambridge. So they want to see that they would enjoy teaching you. And yeah, essentially they're looking, I think the main piece of advice I can give is to speak your thoughts, essentially. Obviously you write stuff down, but try and explain, at least for engineering, try and explain what you're writing down, what your thought process is, and yeah, how you're at least attempting to solve the solution. And listen to what the interviewer is saying, because it might like try and subtly drop a hint and help you. So yeah, just yeah.
Great. Another question that I know that I struggled with a little bit when I was in college was, how do I choose a course? I know for some people it's a super obvious choice and there's one distinctive, course that people have their mindset on for a long time. But usually, people some students in college will struggle distinguishing between whether they'd be better suited to like physics or maths, or whether they'd prefer, history or, a more political based course, or like there's a lot of overlap and similarities. Like you could want to study history, but we could also have an inclination to study law, for example. So I thought it'd be cool if we break down how we made our subject choices. So Dilmeet, if you want to give that one a crack. I'm not sure whether it was a difficult choice for you, but your process.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a difficult choice for me, because I had quite a lot of different interests. I'd say there are like 3 factors that you should consider when you're like looking for a course. So the first would be careers, and then second would be like strengths, and then like third would be like your academic interests. So like with careers, like if you want to go into medicine or something where like you need a specific degree, obviously go and try and do that specific degree. But like for a lot of careers, you don't need a specific degree. So like with law, you can either study law or like any other subject and do like a conversion. Similarly with like finance or investment banking, you can like pretty much get in with like any subject degree. For like your strengths, like try and look at something you're good at. So like if you're very good at maths or something like that, try aim for like STEM subjects. If you're very good at essay writing or very good at like debating, try looking more at like humanities subjects, so like politics or law, something of that sort. And then like finally, your academic interest. So like if you've got like a very specific or niche interest within something, so like whether it be politics or a very niche or specific, specific period within history, you want to try and look at the modules of those specific courses, and usually they are available to the public. Like you can find them on your university's website and like see whether or not those modules will fit in within your interests. So like at Cambridge, at least for HSPS, like the politics and international relations modules, they have like paper guides, and like you can literally see what you're going to be studying if you were to choose those modules. And like you can literally see like what you're going to be studying, what the lectures are going to be about, and like you kind of realize it's very theoretical and very abstract, whereas a politics degree at like Warwick or somewhere else might be a lot more contemporary. So like they might focus on like Brexit or like very policy-based issues rather than it being philosophical or sort of very conceptual. So I'd say keep those 3 in mind. And like at the end of the day, from my experience, like, or from like the people I've seen, there is a lot of course switching that goes on, and like it's not that difficult. I know people that have like switched from like courses. So like I know someone who's switched from NatSci to engineering, and then like a term later switched back to NatSci. So NatSci stands for natural sciences. So like you don't have to like make your mind up at this point. Like there are even people that switch courses in like second year. So as long as like you meet like the entry requirements and like have the skills for it, you don't worry too much about like very sort of specific courses, but do make sure like you have an idea about like a broad range of courses that are a bit similar. So like humanities versus STEM.
That's pretty pretty much the same for myself as well. Like when I was sort of navigating the courses, I definitely did look through what the modules actually were. There's a really transparent like breakdown of every course on the Oxford website. I'm pretty sure that's true of Cambridge as well. So you can see like the modules you can choose from. So if you have like specific interests within a subject, then you can go ahead and see which university is best and which course will best suit your interests. So yeah, thank you. Another question that I thought might be useful to talk about is, what does reading around your subject mean? Because if you go through the process of applying to a course at Oxbridge, you will always hear, read around your subject in preparation. But what that actually means, it's always not that easy to gauge. So Simran, maybe you want to take this one?
I think the best way you can read around your subject is to take things that are most accessible to you. They can't be personal statements or interviews or anything like that. They're not expecting you to have knowledge of really technical aspects of law. Just looking at the world around you and just seeing like legal implications. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. I'm not going to name it, but we all know. But there's a lot of stuff going around, and so a lot of that is very accessible at the moment. So you can just dig into that, find a new story that you like, follow that, and just take an interest in certain things. And once you start doing that reading, you find certain types of stories that interest you, and you can keep following those. But for me, I didn't really do much reading around my subject, kind of just something with the subject.
Okay. Simi?
Yeah, so for psychology, because it's so vast, like you could be interested in, the more the biological side of things, like mental health, or you might be interested in social psychology. But there are like online like magazines and stuff like so one that I read was like Psychology Today. So that just gives you a brief every couple of days there's articles on there updating you about the recent work that's being conducted in the various like domains of psychology. So you might want to pick one and focus on that, or even like reading around just doesn't necessarily mean you just have to read stuff. Even just like watching things like TED Talks, like I know from like psychology a lot of people did that, or like doing like short online courses. So maybe you read about something and you find it interesting, and then you go and do a short online course on that. That's always a good idea. Or you might actually read an article that you find interesting, but you're not really sure where to go from with it. You can always like contact the author. So I know like the one thing that I did was like email like professors that had written the articles, and a lot of the time they do respond back to you and they're willing to have a conversation about a specific topic. So it's more about like maybe you've read one thing and how it links to how that inspired you, rather than just trying to like read everything at once. It's more about picking niche topics within things that you like and then developing those interests further, rather than just trying to be all knowledgeable about everything.
May I chime in here quickly?
Go on.
Yeah, I just want to also about reading up. I know this is quite specific to HSPS, considering it is such a broad subject. But I remember when going to my interview and writing my personal statement, a lot of the things I involved weren't particularly, watching BBC News all the time or reading like very academic essays. Even things that kind of you think might not necessarily be as relevant can still be applicable if you take the time to really articulate why. Because you've got to remember, it's about presenting you as a person. So I remember in my personal statement, I was talking in the breakout rooms about it, I mentioned an art exhibition I went to and a poetry collection I've read. And even though in and of themselves, they don't feel like they'll be relevant to politics, I argued that sort of how, in terms of art, about how to express identity and how identity is important to forming political ideas. And I also talked about things like sort of Sikh history I mentioned, and about how that led me to think about colonialism and how the world is shaped. So don't think about like anything you do is sort of unproductive or irrelevant, because everything can be if you are able to articulate it. And by of course, please go deep into what you're trying to study, develop a passion for it, because that's what they're looking for. But also demonstrate that you can find that passion in the other things that you do, especially, for example, some of our politics. If you can find the politics in the day-to-day stuff, it's really insightful. Maybe this might not be as applicable to sort of subjects in the STEM field, but also the humanities. If you're able to sort of show that you can unpick and critically think about things, even if they're not explicitly related to the course, they're still really useful.
Yeah, but I think, in terms of you know, in general and broadly across all subjects, it's about proactively seeking out what your interests are and being able to articulate those to your tutors and express your sort of passion. When it comes to humanities subjects and more arty subjects, it's about being able to, well, just recognize that everything is open to interpretation, and tutors will really look for that when they're speaking to you. So they can recognize that, okay, you know, this person's not only gone and read something about what they're interested about, but they've gone and thought about it. And you just actually keep stressing that throughout the degree anyway, like, what have you thought, you know, what do you really think? And they'll really probe you. And that's the same, that's very true of interviews as well. Yeah. That's the only, I wrote down those 4 sort of broad questions. But if there's any other ones that you have, then the chat's obviously open for you to drop them in there. They can be really minor as well, like nothing is too simple to ask. So feel free to keep dropping questions in the chat. While we wait, I'm just going to give you guys a quick reminder of what happens following the conference as well. So expect to receive a package in the post. It's going to contain some resources about applying an application. So it will have a book that's relevant to your subject, and it will also contain some Christchurch and Trinity merch. It will also have a prospectus and a couple of like refreshments and stuff. Obviously nothing that will expire, but you can find that, you'll expect to find that in the post. And we'll also be circulating like a feedback form. So if you guys could get that back to us soon, that would be great. Another thing I just needed to make before, just in case we have to finish abruptly, is we will need your safeguarding forms back, more today or tomorrow if that's possible, just because this event is being recorded. Do you guys have any other questions that they could potentially benefit from?
For those in like your final years, what are you guys planning on doing like next year or like in the future? It'll be good for like inspiration for the younger ones. Looking at Kieran mainly, but if anyone else is like in the final year, give it a go too.
Does anybody want to take this? Okay, Kieran?
Honestly, I don't know. Like, I've been here for 4 years. This is my 4th year now. I don't know what I want to be doing. When I graduate, I'll go. So I'm an engineer now. I'll probably go into software engineering, but beyond that, I don't know where I'll be working or like what kind of specific industry and stuff. I think there's a lot of pressure to kind of know what you want to do exactly. But I mean, like your opinion on your subject and like the specific parts of your subject change so much at uni that I don't think it's like you don't need to decide right now. As in, you guys, I should probably decide like as soon as possible, but you guys don't need to decide right now. So yeah, like just kind of figure out what you're passionate about right now, which I guess I still am doing. But yeah, I mean, to answer the question, I don't know what I'm doing next year. I'll just try and find some work, I guess.
Yeah, it's the same for me actually. I even still, like, I know we're probably 6th form was really sort of conditioning you to really sort of have this all set up, but even us, like, we're in our final years at Cambridge, but whether it's going, you know, into the workforce or whether it's into academia, like it's still not necessarily sort of that clear. But it's more about, yeah, as Kieran was saying, developing a passion for something, you know, and that's what we went into. These are things we enjoy. And at the end of the day, those things are going to carry us forward as we go. You know, we are going to leave with a degree that's very powerful. So no matter what we choose to go in, because we've demonstrated that passion, that's something that employers will look for. You know, and for us, that's kind of the main thing. I think we've got another question. I think, Kieran, you're quite quick to do with that one.
Oh, I see. Okay. I can read it out. Someone's asked, if you do go on to a master's degree, is it hard to balance your degree and employment? Is there anybody here who's going on to a master's? Rajan, do you want to take that?
In Oxford, I think most of the STEM degrees for masters are integrated into the course. So that would be like our 4th year. I'm assuming that's the same for Cambridge as well. So for us, it's kind of just continuing on with the degree. There's not much change I think the same rules apply about the employment at Oxford. You can't get a part-time job at the same time while you do the master, because it's basically just integrated as part of our degree. There's not much difference, except for the work you do, obviously, is a bit different. But yeah, the same rules apply. So I don't think you're going to be, there's not going to be like employment at the same time unless you go to like a different university or do it part-time.
Yeah, so I'm doing a 4th-year master's right now. So I'm doing my 4th year, which is integrated master's right now. Yeah, it's exactly as Rajan said. Like, I mean, nothing really changes for me. They don't treat me necessarily as a graduate where you kind of have this freedom to kind of go do work, like get a job and stuff. I'm treated more as a 4th-year undergraduate, which is kind of somewhere in the middle. So yeah, I think Rajan essentially answered that perfectly. Just confirming.
Okay, we've got another question. Oh, Origin, were you about to speak?
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, from like, maybe not those who've done an integrated course, but for those who've sort of gone on to do a master's, it does depend wildly on the course you do. Like, there are some master's courses that are part-time if you want to go on after your undergrad and reapply. But there are some that are sort of really kind of start to finish that are sort of in a year. So it's all very dependent. It all depends on the subject. But for an integrated one, Rajan and Kieran have answered that perfectly. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, some people do apply for like a follow-up master's after their degree, like, and do it part-time or even full-time. I mean, you have more flexibility with a master's degree usually, whereas undergrad life in Oxford and Cambridge in particular is quite different to, always quite distinguished from postgrad sort of life as well. Another question has come in asking, is there any advice on deciding whether or not to study law or finalising your degree choice in general? I can start with this one and then perhaps we can hear from Simran because she's a lawyer. So I almost applied to study law, but I chose not to because it was actually based off some advice that I'd received because, you know, like all throughout secondary school, you know, I had it in my mind that, I'm going to study law at university, but you know, when I got to college, it kind of like hit me that wasn't really based off any real passion for law. It was just because, honestly, like my parents just pushed me like down that road. They were like, oh, well, you know, you should study law at university, this, that, the other. But I kind of realized that wasn't really founded from like, I wasn't coming from the right place to, you know, go ahead and study law at, you know, an exceptionally demanding degree as well. And I'm really glad I made that decision because I really do enjoy history. I know I enjoy it a lot more than I would have done with law. And I think one of the things with Oxford and Cambridge is you have to like it. You know, it's like you have to like obviously show that passion at interview level because, you know, tutors have been picking students for in many cases decades, and they will be able to identify, you know, who is really interested in what they teach. And I know I wouldn't have really been able to demonstrate that with law. But also, if you don't like it, then you won't really be able to, you know, have the best time here or make the most of the experience at Oxbridge because you have to like the work. I think, you know, when I was younger as well, I used to romanticize the idea of like Oxbridge a lot, but you have to, you know, you have to really like the work to make sure that when you are here and you're studying in like, you know, the wonderful libraries and in the Bodleian, that you enjoy what you're doing. So my advice would be to just go back to, you know, go reflect on like the subjects that you've got at A level or that you're doing at A level, and have a look into the breakdown of the modules at both Oxford and Cambridge for the law degree, and, you know, really think, you know, is this something I'm going to enjoy? Because to do well in the subjects here, you have to enjoy it. And if you want to sort of become a solicitor or go into law or pursue law after university, which is, I assume, what you want to do, considering you're considering law at university, then you have to get like good grades and you have to do well in your degree. But if you feel like you're not going to thrive in a law degree, then it's better to do a non-law degree and then pursue like the solicitor path. And there's no like discrimination between the two different degrees when it comes to employment. So pick what you love and find your passion, because there's a lot of work here and you have to enjoy what you do. Simran, if you want to give the other side, the other perspective from the other side.
I actually agree 100%. I think it all comes down to your motivation on wanting to study law. If the only reason you want to do a law degree is to have a job in the legal field, I would advise against it. You can do a degree in something you have a genuine passion for, interest in, and then just take that year out and do your GDL. Because law is very intense, and if you're sitting there doing your 100 pages of reading a week, thinking I don't like this, you're not going to get through it. So it's better just to go with what you do have a genuine enjoyment in, and so that if you can go to uni open days, whether they're virtual or not, a lot of them do have taste sessions, and law are quite heavily subscribed to. So they should be running those if they are, whether virtual or in person. So try and attend those if you can. And again, not the very helpful advice, but read around law, trying to get an insight into what a law degree actually looks like, because we have an idea of studying law as being really fun and interesting, but sometimes it can be technical, and again, it can be intense and a bit dry. So just kind of get an insight into that as much as you can, and talk to people like me. If you want to reach out after, want to know a bit more about what a law degree entails, like feel free to message the SeekSoc page, and that we can have a more in-depth discussion if you want. Yeah.
Just the second part of that question, I thought I'd address it as well. Finalising your degree choice in general. I know that Dilmeet mentioned earlier that there is more of a culture of moving subject or switching, but I feel like there's less of that in Oxford. And to switch subjects while you're at university, you have to, I mean, I know for Oxford, you have to go through a sort of longer process of doing the admissions tests for the subject that you want to move to, and then you have to go through the interviews again with the tutors of that subject that will be teaching you in your college. So there is like an extensive process. So I would, I would give it some time, and I know obviously you might be busy with A levels and other work, but even just taking out like an hour or 2 hours a week and just going through some of the materials or the beginner materials of the courses, perhaps even checking out the reading lists, you'll get a really good idea for what kind of content you'll be studying. And I think that's the best way to sort of confirm that, okay, this is what I want to do. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of really taking the time out to reflect on yourself and yeah, thinking about it. Oh, and another thing would be just to speak to your teachers, because they tend to know you better than you may think, and they understand more about where you thrive and the topics in which you thrive, and they may be able to give you some insight that we can't about what your passions may be, and that can stimulate other ideas and thoughts for you. We have another 15 minutes if anybody else wants to ask any questions. Okay, while we wait for the chat, another question that I thought of earlier was, what skills do I need to do well at Oxford and Cambridge? Maybe Dilmeet, if you want to take that one.
So what skills you need to do well at Cambridge?
Mm-hmm. Or Oxford.
So firstly, or Oxford, yeah, sorry.
That's right.
I'd say I think we can maybe tackle this question from looking at what is hard about Cambridge and Oxford. So one thing that I struggle with quite a lot is the workload. So the workload is very, very demanding. Especially for HSPS, because we have to write 12 essays in an 8-week term. And in comparison to other universities, like my friend at LSE who does politics and IR, he has to write 4 essays over a longer term. And what this means is you need to be very good with your time management. So time management skills and generally being organized is very, very important, because even though you have 8 weeks, a lot of your supervisions or tutorials might be bunched up in the middle. So effectively, you might only have 6 weeks to do them. And what sometimes happens is you don't know the essay question until very late into the term as well. So you can't really plan ahead that much. But for what you do know, you need to make sure that you don't procrastinate that much. But also you're able to manage your time, because I Cambridge and Oxford, you're going to have a lot of extracurriculars because there's way more to do than at other unis. So there's a Sikh society there's like university sports, like Arjun and Kieran participate in. Then there's also college sports. So like I play for my college's third team for football, and like we have a match every weekend. Then we also go to the Gurdwara every Sunday, or try to at least. And then we have like weekly Dehada Sahib, and then also like a bunch of other extracurriculars. And what this means is like you need to make sure that you're able to like, you know, make a decision as to whether or not you'll be able to go to the football match, or whether or not, you know, you need to ask your supervisor for an extended deadline or something like that. So like my first main sort of skill that I would say will prepare you well is time management. The second skill, I'd say generally motivation. Like it's very, very difficult, and like you need to be motivated to like continue. So like you need to see like light at the end of the tunnel. It is very easy to like get lost in all the work, and like I know some people they do like take time off or ask for some time off, and like generally if you want to do you know, survive Cambridge or Oxford, like you need to also be like very motivated. So, and I think this goes back to like what Simran was talking about, like being motivated about your subject. Like if you don't enjoy it, it's going to be very difficult, and it's already, you know, very difficult even if you do enjoy it. But that being said, like there is a lot of support here, and like there are a lot of people that are willing to help you. So like all of my supervisors, like if you tell them like you need to submit an essay plan rather than a full essay, like they'll be very happy to accept that. Or like I've asked my supervisor, who's also my DOS, if I can submit like essays after terms finished during like the holidays, and like she's totally fine with that as well. But yeah, time management and motivation would be the two most important skills that I would say are important.
Another one I would add, to be honest, from like a humanities perspective, is, you know, in your first year at university, and I think this is true of pretty much all universities, but I think it's especially true of Oxbridge, is that you kind of learn how to read like a university student. So when you read in secondary school, it's just a very, or college, it's a very different sort of activity or exercise than it is at degree level. At degree level, you'll be faced with a lot more heavy literature. So, you know, you'll be reading, you know, historians or scholars' arguments on whatever you're learning about, and you kind of learn how to pick up information faster and be able to manage a lot more sort of information and knowledge input, I guess, quicker. So you become a lot more effective at that over the course of your degree, but particularly it's a big sort of jump in first year. So one of the skills I would certainly exercise before starting your degrees is just being able to face a whole bunch of material and, you know, either summarize it in your mind or be able to note take very fast, because that's certainly a skill, I think, to be honest, in any degree, because I know with even sciences you'll be using textbooks and even like lectures. I mean, in a similar sort of sense, you'll be summarizing like huge like wealths of material into more digestible bits of knowledge, so you can you know, produce work and stuff. So yeah, that's certainly very important.
Yeah, I can speak as someone who like necessarily may not have had the time management side of it down, but I've always said from the beginning that the pinnacle and like the real challenge of Oxbridge isn't necessarily the workload, which it is manageable if you kind of are able to keep up with it, but I think it is about the balance, and it's about kind of managing both, you know, the workload, but as well as your mental health and your social life, because both are equally as important. And that's why Roma kind of went on to say, like, there is a very kind of big work hard, play hard culture, because it's true, you know, when things are wrapping up, you know, you got to find your ways to cope through it. And I think as you guys go through sort of sixth form and you start to learn how you work and you learn how you study and you start learning more independently, you will kind of pick up those skills as you go. I do a degree where I don't necessarily have that many contact hours. I only have a few lectures a week, and then everything else is sort of my own time to sort of read and write. And for me, initially, I struggled with that because I kind of spend most of that time, you know, doing other things. But for me, it was about kind of finding that healthy balance of, okay, maybe being in the library a couple of hours and then taking the time out to actually see friends. Because too much of one is terrible, you know. If you're too much of a shut and you're just worried about, you know, hitting your word counts, you won't get any experience. But if you also, you know, spend too much time out and about, you're never going to get the same thing. So the big challenge, I think, and that's going to be any university experience, is about finding the balance. And it's through, you know, it's through those little details of the little things you do that's where you kind of really are able to make the most out of your experience.
Okay, great. Anybody else have any other potential questions we could look at?
Maybe like, what's been everyone's favorite memory so far at Oxford or Cambridge?
I feel like I have so many that I wouldn't be able to bring it down to just one. Anybody else want to take a shot at that?
I have one. I'm sure you guys remember. It's when we were at Keys, Gonville and Keys College. Actually, that was just one of my favorite moments, especially as a Sikh society, where we kind of attended an event called Diversity Day. And that was an event that Gonville and Keys College had, where they kind of had a lot of cultural societies sort of set up their stores and do events and stuff. And we found ourselves, we at the last minute, we booked ourselves in and put a stall up for the society. This was our first year of running, so we didn't really have as many resources, but we turned up, and we actually were able to talk to people. I had my speaker playing some dynamic songs, and we kind of were talking to people about Sikhi. I had my books on the table. Domit's already smiling because he knows the story ends. At the last minute, actually, we decided that Juvraj, with his beautiful coloured bugs, he brought them over, and we started tying them on people. And even though we probably had one of the smallest tables kind of tucked at the back, we were one of the most popular stores. And that doesn't even finish the story. So we go back, we sort of are packing up, and it's the end of the day. It was a long event. It was sort of an evening-long event. We packed up, and we've come back to the to Gonville and Keith College to meet everyone. And it was me and sort of another student, and the rest of the boys, so Kieran, Juvi, and a few of the others, they were kind of back at Keys, and I couldn't find them. College had closed, and it was locked up. It was about 11. It was late at night, and I was looking for them. I was on the phone, and here I was. This college, it's closed, it's locked, and I'm wandering through. They're telling me they're here, and I don't see them. And I make my way upstairs, and out of nowhere, in kind of the shadows of one of the staircases, this lady pops out, and she says, "You guys want to be here?" Here's me thinking, I've seen a ghost, in a very old rustic college, and it's dark and it's locked. Turns out, the lady opens a secret door, and I see this massive room, sort of huge, bigger than I've ever seen, with kind of like art on the walls and sort of like, kind of Roman structures and really kind of fine furniture. And I just see the boys in their sort of tracksuits and hoodies sipping tea out of china glasses at midnight. And it turns out that lady who saw us was actually a professor. She was a doctor. She's a teacher, a lecturer. And she's Uppany. She was a history professor. And she found us and spoke to us and was just really happy to see some Sikh kids. She invited us in to the Keys Fellow Room. So this is a private room for the professors, for the teachers, for the fellows, for the academics. And she invited us in to come sit and have tea because she was just that happy to see us. And this was in first year. We were in a room that very few students find themselves in. Mm-hmm. We were sitting here drinking tea with academics. And just because we decided to turn up, and because of our Sikh identity, because we stood out, and because we made ourselves known, because we made the decision to really make our, to show ourselves to the whole community in Cambridge, we were rewarded for that, and we just had a phenomenal experience. When I was looking around for these guys and found them sipping tea, out of china glasses, and that for me always makes me happy. It was one of my favorite things. It always justifies kind of why I'm here and just the experience that I had.
That is a very, very Oxbridge experience.
Yeah, it was really hard telling everyone at home how that happened.
Yeah, no, Fellows Gardens are really, really nice always. Yeah. Anybody else with a favorite memory? We do have lots. I'm pretty sure all of us have like a lot of great university experiences. Oxford and Cambridge aren't just all about working really, really hard. Go on, tell me.
Yeah, so like a few weeks ago, we were like in a common room, me, Arjun, and Amrit. And like we ordered Domino's. So like we were there for like a few hours. It was just us three. And then like I go to the bathroom and like I come back and like all of a sudden Amrit's like proper shook. He's like telling me, stay there, don't move, don't get close to him. And there's like Arjun's face is like proper serious, Amrit's face proper serious. I'm like, what's going on? And then Arjun tells us he's got a message that like someone in his household tested positive for COVID. And like, oh crap, what are we gonna do? Because like we already ordered Domino's and like we're just waiting for it to arrive, and like we paid for it and everything. But like at the same time, we don't want to get COVID. But then, yeah, I mean, I was like, we've already spent like 2 or 3 hours with him. Like if we've gotten it, we're probably already infected. And Amrit's like, no, we can't have that mindset. So like, he left, and like me and Arjun are still waiting for Domino's. And Narnid, who's also on the call, he messages me on Discord. He's like, are you guys still there? I'm like, yeah. And I was like, but you might not want to come because Arjun might have COVID. And he's like, is there food? I was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, I don't care. It's like, yeah, it was like, well, just one of them like little moments where like everyone's personality comes out, and like these little things that like you're going to remember like many years down the line. Yeah. And like when I went to pick up, because like this happened like very fast. So like Arjun told me to go and collect the pizza because like he couldn't leave the room, like just in case he had COVID. So like I went outside to the gate near Trinity, and then I thought he told me to go get the pizza, but then I see Nonid at the gate and there's no pizza guy. So for a second I thought he told me to pick up Nonid from the gate. And I go to the gate, I'm like, where's the pizza at? He's like, what are you talking about? So we were very confused. And then I called Arjun, I'm like, where's the pizza? He's like, oh, it's meant to be there. I was like, no, only Nonid's here, not the pizza. And then, yeah, I mean, I went to look for the pizza people. So they parked like down the road, like very far away. But yeah, little memories like that are like gonna stick for a long time.
Did you get your pizza in the end?
Yeah, we got pizza and Arjun tested negative, so
great.
Yeah, Nonid got some free pizza.
Yeah. Any good Oxford stories?
You probably have quite a lot, but struggling to think of like a specific one right now. Rajan, come on.
I believe in you. You got this. Think of a story.
I know you've got stories.
I believe in you.
I think the problem everyone's having is that like it's not like you have one standout memory. You just have loads and loads of like random things that come to you at random times as well. Like a lot of my really fond memories are to do with SeekSoc because it's kind of like for a lot of us it's just been our life for the last however many years we've been involved with it. So some of my favorite SeekSoc memories are like we've done like an Amrit Vela Nitnim, like kind of a whole kind of function at Amrit Vela, which is really, really nice. We did a whole conference where we invited kind of random people, kind of the public as well, like not just uni students, to learn about Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And we had like 150 people there, which was huge for us. And then even like social stuff, like a few of us will just sometimes meet up. We'll have jar. We'll watch like a Punjabi movie or something. Play like some board games and stuff for absolutely no reason until like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. When we all have like 9 a.m. lectures the next day because we just kind of we don't care. We're just like enjoying the moment right now. And it's like, yeah, we have like really cool concrete experiences where we get to do like really cool things and stuff. But I think honestly, I value those little moments where you're just hanging out with like the people you're like closest with in the university, and kind of just forgetting about all your uni stresses and stuff like that, and just kind of enjoying the moment. I think that's what I personally really value.
Yeah, I think, when people ask, is it like Harry Potter? I'm like, yeah, I mean, it can be if you wanted to. Like, you can go to a, wooden walled library. You can wear a gown to dinner if you want to. So if you want that Harry Potter experience, you can find it here. And like, you do weird things like in Oxford, like, it'll be like this historic, like 500-year-old library. It's like beautiful, but someone will be sitting there with like a pot noodle. Like that just sums up like college life, really. And I think in terms of memories, like Kiran kind of got it spot on. Like you just have a string of memories that are just like, university experiences. I know like one particular highlight that just came to mind was because we have a sort of quite tight-knit culture with the Cambridge Society. So Oxford and Cambridge, like sometimes we'll do like we'll sort of meet up, and we've met up in London a couple times, and once we came around to Cambridge and we sort of went around Trinity College, and it was really nice, played pool, and that was just like a really nice like chill time. Yeah, something, and it was Christmassy as well. I know it was winter, it was very cold, but yeah, it was just very nice because Cambridge is a very Christmassy town.
Oh, do you guys not have Bridgmas?
Huh?
Do you guys not have Bridgmas?
Bridges, Cambridge.
No, because our term ends at the end of November, so we go home for December.
Yeah.
We treat the end of this November.
You call it Bridgmas?
Yeah, so we celebrate like a version of Christmas a month early, but like with everyone in Cambridge.
We call it Oxmas.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of have that, like we already get in the Christmas spirit while we're here, and then we
yeah, same. I think we're gonna put like a Christmas tree in our corridor or something with like a bit of tinsel on everyone's door.
No, there's definitely that kind of like spirit, and I think that's just one thing that's quite nice, where it's quite homely. That's one thing, because we're in quite smaller towns and we've all come from bigger cities. Like, it's really nice to have that smaller town feel where we can just kind of be a bit out and about and
For
do
sure.
things like that, and it's quite tight knit. And I feel like that's one thing like we do take for granted in Oxford and Cambridge, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, if we were in like a city, you know, like in Leicester or Birmingham, like I'm sure we'd have a lovely experience, but it wouldn't be the same.
Yeah. Okay, guys, it's 4:30. We should probably think about wrapping up. Thank you, everybody, for coming. You will be receiving little packages in the post very soon. I think, you know, just my final advice, and then I think everybody else, and anybody else, if you want to give something as well, then you can say it. It's just no matter what the sort of perceptions of Oxford and Cambridge are, and what the sort of stereotypes of these places are, as quite sort of, you know, like backwards institutions, there is a place for you here, and you can make your experience here whatever you want it to be. Of course, there is going to be a lot of work, but there's also, you know, there is also so much opportunity here. There's so much, you can really have a great intellectual experience, and you can make many friends for life. And you won't feel lonely. There are great Sikh societies and Indian societies, so you will be able to make lots of friends. Anybody else want to say anything to wrap up?
Yeah, just to close off as well. Like, and also never be put off on the academic side of things either.
Yeah.
Just the fact that you're considering coming to Oxford or Cambridge means you're ready. It means you're capable. Now it's just a question of, you know, you're in year 12 or you're in year 13. It's just about, you know, sharpening that. You know, if you can imagine yourself here, you've already won half the battle, and that's the thing that puts most people off. Everything else is, you know, the hard work you're gonna put in. That's a given. You guys are already academic and you're hardworking, you're ambitious. You took the initiative to come and turn up today, as probably as many other events as well. Everything else, you know, will fall into place. It's just kind of a little bit of motivation, a little bit of faith, and a little bit of Maharaj di Kirpa, and then you'll be fine. So just, yeah, never be put off by anything. I'm sure we don't fit the mold of what you considered someone at Oxford or Cambridge to be like, and you guys probably aren't either. And even if you are, it's just about, you know, put your mind to it, and you're more than capable.
Yep. Well, thanks everyone for joining. See you all. Well, if you apply, hopefully we can see you around the city. Thank you.
Thank you.